Today's lesson is going to be about sports and the economy. It's going to be a brief overview of some important topics, and in our next class, we will discuss in more in depth some of the specifics and situations that we can apply to this. This is no big surprise. As technology changes, there's more money to be made. There's more opportunities for commercialization in sports today than there ever have been. Okay, we have the backdrop of Chicago right there to discuss what it takes, what needs to be present for commercial sports to grow in an area. And those things that we need to have an economy revolving around a market, typically large, densely populated cities. We rarely have, the Bears aren't going to relocate to Champaign for many reasons. And there needs to be a standard of living in that area where people have some disposable income, where they can buy tickets, buy merchandise, get to games, get home from games. And you want to be in a big media market to have that coverage. They need money for construction and to maintain facilities and all the other costs that are involved when you have a professional team. Class relations. This has been a big topic and overriding theme throughout this class. And this point also comes up about priorities and preferences. The people who have power and the money, they're the ones that are influencing sports and how they're commercialized. I have a picture here that is marketing, advertising for the Masters. And that's a case, it's an example where golf is popular in a certain niche. It doesn't bring in ratings like the NFL, but because people of power and wealth are involved with professional golf, they're going to ensure that their product, their sport is seen, even though it may not pull in the type of ratings major sports do. So I'm imagining you can probably come up with some reasons why sports are so popular today. Excitement. We like to be entertained as people, and the quest for that. We're looking for excitement. We like to watch that. It's a break from our everyday lives. We like to see that. Success. We love the success story, the underdog. And we've talked about it when we talked about children in sports, how competitive youth sports have really grown. In the last 20 years, the differences from when I was a youth to today in the competitiveness of sports is crazy. And we know with the media coverage, the opportunity, you do not have to be a member of ESPN to break news. With Twitter and other technological advances, you as an average everyday fan can break news. So it all comes down to money. We know that in most ventures, and the older you get, you'll realize that too. Probably become as cynical as I am. But the motives for corporations and companies to take the commercialization of sports and take it globally lie in a few things right here. They recognize that they can expand the people who are consuming their product globally. The access through media and technology. We see it, the NFL schedules some games in London. The NBA is a very global game. Lots of players from other countries are playing in the league, and it's very, very well marketed, across the globe. And the corporations are just using it to expand their own interests, their corporate interests. They're latching onto these sports that are global to become recognized on that front, the global expansion. Branding in sports, everywhere you look. An example, the picture here with the University of Illinois, who just went through a rebranding with Nike, changed the look, but everything's branded. The sport itself is branded. You go to an event, it is branded. Whether it's Nike, Adidas, Under Armour, whatever it may be. The athletes are even branded. Now, the appeal for spectators, you need to have some things in place. You need to have the spectator attached. We have to create that attachment if you're going to want people to consume your product. The one way they do that, sports naturally does that because the uncertainty of how the event is going to end. Week to week, whatever sport you watch, you see this. Comes down to the last play, maybe goes to overtime. That uncertainty, even if there's a chance your team might lose, the closeness that risk you see in the next point, risk the reward with that event, the uncertainty makes it's great drama for television, and it draws us as spectators to the sport. And we love the story of the hero, the underdog who rises up, the player who no one knew about, all of a sudden has the game of their life and leads the team that wasn't ranked over, a team that was headed to the championship. These are the things that sports bring to us as spectators, and we crave it. You see the goal here as far as how we can change sports and structure it to commercialize it. Once the commercialization happens, they're just looking at entertainment. We want to increase our total entertainment experiences. So we do that by changing rules. Think about your favorite sport, sports you watch frequently on TV, and think about some recent changes since you've watched that sport. Have they sped the action up, which increases scoring, the balancing of competition. More teams are competitive than prior. When I was a young buck watching sports, college football, there were only a handful of teams that were ever competing for a national championship. Now, you have teams that aren't your historically dominant teams who are there in the running for this, and that's that competitive balance. They want to maximize dramatic moments, changing maybe overtime formats, whatever it may be. Just think about your own experience, your own favorite sport, and how they have changed some of the rules that enhance it and can create that total entertainment experience. So the locus of control and how that changes within an organization when commercialization is the key. The athletes, it's not about them anymore. They don't have interests. They're not deciding factors in what's going on. That control is shifted to the owners, the sponsors who are providing the money. It's the front office personnel. That's who is controlling what an organization is doing in a commercialized setting. We discussed this, how team owners benefit from asking for public assistance to create stadiums and arenas. We watched that clip from Cleveland when they were discussing about building a stadium, and we'll get into the pros and cons, the people who are on either side of that coming up. The tax breaks are involved. I have the picture of the Panthers PSLs down there and the personal seat license. What that does is you pay money for a PSL, and that puts you in a pool of people who are available to buy the tickets. So you pay an exorbitant amount of money to get a PSL, and then you still have to pay for the season tickets. So those that say, let's get some subsidies for a stadium, they talk about that job creation. We're going to infuse money in that local economy. We're going to bring other businesses to this area of the city that is maybe downtrodden. Tourism is going to increase. All those things are the arguments for the subsidizing of stadiums. Those that are against the stadium subsidies, they're talking about, yeah, you're creating jobs, but they're low paid, they're seasonal. The athletes and executives are the ones that are making the bank, not these low paid seasonal employees. It could just be shifting the entertainment dollar from other areas in the region that may be more mom and pop type places, the local business, to a area that's more of a franchise. So it's a national franchise that is taking these entertainment dollars away from the local, small business type of community places. Yeah, this was interesting when I read this. Not being from Illinois originally, I wasn't aware of this. This is, in Chicago where the Bears play, Soldier Field. Taxpayers forked over 432 million to complete the renovations of Soldier Field, while the team owner then, because of these renovations, saw an increase of $700 million to the value of his team. This is when you get into those arguments against. This is why people do not like to subsidize taxpayer money to subsidize a professional sports team, because we're just the rich get richer. Amateur sports, we understand this, the power, the money. NCAA, we will discuss more about that and their power and their control next class. Depending on the governing body, it depends on what rights are involved. The amount of money that they can receive, it's up to the governing body. You see that last point we've discussed before. The NCAA controls the intercollegiate athletics, so the athletes have few rights, and that'll be a good talking point next class. And this doesn't have to just be for Notre Dame. You can think about any of the big time college football teams, but the ticket prices for NFL and college games are very similar. The college players are not seeing, a fair share of the money that they're bringing in like a National Football League player would. So to sum this quick point up, I would like to refer, and I'm not going to get into this, my vocal prowess, I'm lacking there. But in conclusion, in the words of one of my favorite groups growing up, the Wu-Tang Clan, cash rules everything around me. That's the main key. It's the power, the money. Those who have it, they're the ones that are controlling it. We commercialize sports to increase our bottom line, keep us in the black, keep us from going in the red if we're a corporation or a company, and we get the spectators, the fans, to have a great appeal for our product, and that cash will keep flowing in endlessly. Thanks for watching. Next class, we will have a great discussion on sports and the economy.